Hi, everyone. This is Paul Moran from Grand Opportunity USA, or Go USA, the host and moderator for today's OppScore Debate with or without the candidates for the 1st Congressional District race in Nevada. With us is Republican nominee for Congress Mark Robertson, who's running to unseat 6th-term Congresswoman Deena Titus, who has not accepted our debate request after multiple attempts to reach her office. Mr. Robertson will instead debate Representative Titus's record, platform, and positions as found in the public record, on her website, and in the media. Information that is also found in her OppScore rating produced by Go USA. Suzanne Monk is joining us to read out Titus's record, as Titus has refused to join the debate to discuss and defend her positions for the voters of the Nevada's 1st District. Go USA is a nonpartisan 501c4 organization, and the OppScore, short for Opportunity Score, is the first, one and only unbiased political credit rating that simply shows which politicians are working in support of the Constitution and the will of the people, and who's working against us. The app is free to use and was developed to give voters an easy, fast, and better way to assess candidates for office before they cast their vote, based on the issues that they care most about. At Go USA, we are the voice of the forgotten 80%. And as we like to say, it's not left versus right or red versus blue. Really, it's them versus you. Now for the debate rules. I will ask a series of 10 questions of the candidates separated into 5 areas we call Go USA's 5 points of opportunity. Candidate Mark Robertson will go first, and Suzanne will then speak for Democrat Titus's positions, each having up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. At the conclusion of the responses, I will briefly read out the OppScore ratings for the question and identify whether the candidate is supporting or opposing the Constitution and the majority will of the voters on the given topic, and then move to the next question. So let's let the games begin, and I can't wait to have Mark on. Mark Robertson, thank you for joining us.
You bet, John Paul. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Great. So can you speak to the voters for a moment about your background and who you are and why you're running?
You bet. The reason I'm running is I don't like the direction our country's headed, and I decided I could no longer just sit back and hope somebody else does something about it. I want my children and grandchildren to be able to grow up with the same opportunities and freedoms that I had. So about 22 months ago, my wife and I prayed about it and decided I would run. At that time, I sold my business and quit my job. When people ask me what makes me qualified to serve in Congress, I tell them there's 3 things. 1, I have deep ties to the community. My wife and I raised our family here. I taught in the schools here. I owned my business in this district. I coached Little League and soccer and basketball. And so we worked, played, worshiped, and served all in this district. 2nd is national service. I spent 30 years in the Army. I enlisted as a private and I retired as a colonel. One of my last assignments was to the Pentagon, where I served in the Office of the Secretary of Defense for policy. I also have a degree in finance and an MBA. I know how the economy works. I know what causes inflation, and I know how to balance a budget. 3rd, international experience. During those 30 years in the military, I deployed to 10 different foreign countries, including combat zones in Afghanistan, Kuwait, and Iraq. I know the importance of securing our borders. I know the importance of national defense. So those are the 3 things that qualify me to serve as the representative of the people of Nevada's 1st Congressional District: deep community ties, national service, and international experience.
Great. Thank you for your introduction and that very impressive background. And thank you for your service. Thank you. Everybody watching this, please, we all thank everybody that served the military. So, and now we're going to before we jump into the OppScore questions, we want to give Congresswoman Titus a moment to speak. So she would not join us. We'll have her speak for herself as she speaks to the voters.
Never back down from a tough fight.
I'll play that one more time.
I never back down from a tough fight.
So that's Dina, and Congresswoman Titus refuses to debate. So I don't know. She looks like she's backing down from this fight. What do you think, Mark? I mean, I gave her a chance to speak, and she said she would never back down. But I think that's a strike against her if she doesn't want to speak to the voters, in our opinion, at Go USA. So, all right. So let's get to the first question. Again, there's 5 points of opportunity we're going to discuss, and we're starting with question 1. Do you believe that everyone has the First Amendment right to religious liberty and free speech, including online speech? And the second part to that question is, do you believe that government has the right to use our personal private information for any reason it deems necessary and has the right to mandate personal health and medical policy?
Well, your first question goes to the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment to the Constitution, and I fully support those rights. When I was 17 is the first time I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies. And that includes defending our right to freedom of speech and the freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, and freedom of religion. And then the Fourth Amendment talks about our privacy rights and our protections against illegal search and seizure by the government. And I support those rights, including the right to privacy of our own medical data and other information. The government does not have a right to collect and use that information on us. That is ours, and we are protected by the Constitution for those privacy rights.
Okay, great. Thank you for your response to that question. And I'm going to show the audience your score. This is your OppScore rating. It goes from, just so the audience knows, it goes from -5, which is anti-opportunity and the tyranny side of the scale, up to +5, which is the strong pro-liberty and pro-opportunity side of the scale, where representatives are working for the Constitution and the will of the people. And on these first 2 questions, we'll go down to personal opportunity, and you get the thumbs up on both of them, on supporting the First Amendment rights and the protecting privacy rights, which has a majority support among the public. So thank you for your response. And now I'm going to move to Suzanne, who will talk about the Representative Titus's position. Suzanne?
Well, John, Congresswoman Titus's record on free speech falls well in line with the Biden administration, which she votes with 100% of the time. There has not been one vote against a single Biden policy made by Congresswoman Titus. In regards to medical freedom, she has voted to impose vaccine mandates on federal workers and on our military, and was a very vocal supporter of the Biden COVID strategy, which imposed lockdowns and recommended vaccine mandates nationwide.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne, for reading off for Representative Titus. And we'll go to her score here. And like Mark's score, the team has scored her on these same principles. And we'll go down here, and while we don't have much research showing that she's against the First Amendment, free speech and freedom of religion principles, so that's why she gets a thumbs up on that. She gets the thumbs down in protecting our privacy rights because of what you just described about the lockdowns and the extreme government overreach. And there's lots of information here that backs up what you just said. And in our explanation, we show that the vast majority of Americans believe that we need more privacy and not less. And that people should be able to make their own decisions on medical care, and medical freedom. So thank you very much for that. And we're going to go now to the next question. And I'll pull Mark back up. Okay, Mark, we're on to question 2. What is your specific position on abortion rights? Big topic right now, of course, after the Roe versus Wade decision. Are you strongly pro-life, strongly pro-choice, or do you believe that a mother has the right to choose early in the pregnancy but oppose abortion later in the pregnancy? What's your position on this topic?
So I'm unapologetically pro-life. I believe that we ought to protect the life of unborn children. That being said, I do support exceptions for rape, incest, and the life and health of the mother. I also agree with the decision to overturn Roe, not just because I'm pro-life, but because it was the right legal decision. The Supreme Court, in fact, even Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that Roe was on very shaky legal ground. The Supreme Court was correct when they said that the Constitution was silent on the topic of abortion. And when the Constitution is silent, then the rights and the power are vested in the states and in we the people. And in Nevada, the people have spoken. By a referendum of the people, abortion is settled law in Nevada. Abortion is legal up to 24 weeks on demand, and then after that for the life and health of the mother. I will not support any federal legislation that takes power from the people in Nevada and gives it to the federal government. That is not where it belongs. That's not where the Constitution says it belongs. I will support the people of Nevada.
Great. Thank you for your response. And you have, I'm from Massachusetts. So I'll call that a little bit of a JFK position. I'm Catholic. I believe in life, but you also follow the rules of the law as your priority as representatives. And so for that reason, I will go, if I go to your opportunity score, and you'll see that you got the full point on that. So while you're personally pro-life, you're standing with the Constitution, your state's rights, and the fact that, yep, up to 24 weeks, through 24 weeks, there is a right to abortion. It doesn't make sense that people in Nevada on the left are fighting this, because it seems like they're getting what they want to a large degree. Okay, so thank you very much for that. And now I'm going to move to Suzanne, who will speak for Dina's position on this.
Well, John, the Congresswoman, like the Democrats, supports first trimester abortions and second and third trimester to full-term abortion. She voted for the Women's Health Protection Act, which would federally legalize all abortions nationwide. She has repeatedly opposed the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits federal tax dollars from being spent for abortion. And she voted not to require medical care for babies who survive abortion. She has voted against a 20-week abortion ban as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And that is her position. And honestly, I think often it's better to do this debate style actually gets to the truth of the matter versus the deflection and avoidance of the answer, which many politicians are trying to do when they know the public won't like the answer. So we'll go to her score and look at it. And here she is looking at this, and she gets the thumbs down for the same reason that previously that the majority of people are not for abortion for any reason up to birth. That is only, the research we have is only 8%. The data is 8% of people are okay, or support the idea you should have abortion up through birth for any reason. So that's an extreme position. And there's also videos of Congresswoman Titus saying this is a constitutional right. And she's lying about that. It's never been a constitutional right, as Mark said. So she gets the thumbs down on that.
That's right.
Okay. So, okay, great. Thank you. All right. So now we are going to move to question 3 under economic opportunity. Again, this is in 2 parts. So Mark, 3A, do you support a strong economy, free market capitalism with some checks and balances, and do you oppose expanded government control over our economy? Part 2 is, do you oppose corruption and wasteful spending in government, which directly contributes to inflation?
I do support a free and open economy. The history is filled with countries who failed in socialism. Socialism has failed everywhere it's been tried. And there are multiple academic studies, nonpartisan academic studies, that show the more free a people is, the more free a people are, the more prosperity they enjoy. Freedom leads to prosperity and opportunity. So I support a free and open market, and I would fight against government regulation. I've been a small business owner. I've talked to many small business owners in my district, and the burdens of government regulation and taxes is suffocating for businesses. And it's these small businesses that are creating most of the jobs in the United States. A friend of mine who recently opened a new business said the government is making more money than she is. And then I can't remember the second part of the question, John Paul.
Okay, it was about government waste and the $4 trillion of money that was pushed out for that most economists believe is directly leading to the massive 8.4% national inflation rate.
Yes, Nevada, nationally inflation is 8.4, but in Nevada it's approaching 16%. Nevadan families are suffering under inflation, and because of the price of gas and groceries, and that has been created by very poor government policy, by government overspending, wasteful government spending at the national, state, and local levels. To rein in inflation, we've got to rein in government spending.
Okay. Okay. And that is in line with the majority of American people are it's a top issue, inflation and the economy, obviously. And everything the Democrats have been doing and the Joe Biden agenda have been really working against the American people, driving up inflation and gas and energy prices. So thank you for your answer on that. And if you go to the OppScore, you got the thumbs up on that. Again, you're in line with the American people. The vast majority of people don't want anything to do with socialism, and they want to control government spending, and they want to fight inflation. So thank you for your response. Great. Now, Suzanne, speaking for the congresswoman that refused to show up tonight.
Well, John, Congresswoman Titus has voted for many big government increases and spending bills, including the Build Back Better Act and the American Rescue Plan that even Democrats agree is fueling inflation as we speak. She voted for the American Competes Act, which would impose Chinese-style economic policies and oppose the American free market system. And she also opposes American energy independence.
Okay. Well, thank you for that answer. Again, more direct than you'd ever get out of the Congresswoman. That's probably why she doesn't want to debate.
Oh, in regards to the waste, I did want to answer to the second part of the question. Okay. She has voted for every big spending bill put out by the Democrat administration to the cost of trillions of dollars, and has voted against a balanced budget amendment and any spending cuts. We were unable to find a spending cut bill that she has voted in support of.
Okay. So that's thank you for that research, and let's go to the score. We'll show, because this is important. Again, the vast majority of Americans do not support socialism. The data is right there in the app. You can check it out yourself when you go to the OppScore dashboard. And on government waste and spending, she's with again the Joe Biden agenda and most Democrats in Congress. Again, this is not a partisan issue, but the data is the data. And when you look at her score, there's a group called the a nonpartisan group called the Council of Citizens Against Government Waste. They look at a lot of data to determine wasteful spending and how that hurts the taxpayers. And you should check them out sometime. If you look at her rating, you look here and you will see that she gets a 0, which is considered hostile, an absolute 0, the lowest rating you can get. So again, we're all about the data here at GOUSA, and she's working against the American people on this issue, and there's data to prove it. And when it comes to economic,
over her many terms, she has voted for trillions and trillions of dollars in spending.
And so you could thank people like Congresswoman Titus for the high inflation, the added cost, and the recession that's hitting us now. People like that are responsible for that. I mean, so okay, so all right, so we're going to go to the next question. Thank you very much. Great job once again. And now we're on to the next topic of social opportunity, the third point in the GOUSA 5-point opportunity star. Question number 4: do you oppose all forms of identity politics, including victim politics, separating people into opposing groups along racial, ethnic, and gender identity lines?
I do oppose separating people by gender and race and religion and any criteria. We're all Americans. You know, one of the great things about serving in the military for 30 years is that in a foxhole, it doesn't matter what the political party or the race or the national origin of the person that's fighting next to you is. We don't see each other as black and white and brown and red and yellow. We see each other as green, the Army green. And it was a wonderful environment to be in. That's what we ought to be. That's the notion that we ought to be following in the United States, that we're all Americans. We're all in this together. No need to separate us by different groups.
Great. Thank you for your answer on that. And that is that's an issue that is really front and center. I mean, everybody knows it's not a mystery that certain people use identity politics and as a mechanism to get votes and support. New research just came out today that 60% of people do not want race to be any term. They don't want race to be on college admissions forms whatsoever. It really shouldn't be there. If you're not a racist, you shouldn't be measuring someone's anything by their race, good or bad. And so and there's other research that shows even much higher numbers of people are sick and tired of this identity politics that's really dividing the country. And again, This is not my opinion. It's the opinion of, well, it is my opinion, but it's also the opinion of the vast majority of voters in America. So you get the thumbs up on that once again. Thank you, Mark. Suzanne, can you speak to where Congresswoman Titus is on this issue?
Well, Congresswoman Titus has involved in identity politics. She has voted to support including biological males in women's sports through college and school athletic programs. She voted for the American Rescue Act, which includes funding for CRT training through the Secondary School Emergency Fund. She also voted for the Don't Block LGBTQ Act and the Equality Act, H.R. 5, both of which push gender and sexual orientation ideology.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And again, you'll look at the ratings here. And this is very, very important. People that are using this thing with identity politics, CRT, even, they call it the trans rights agenda. Now, trans people do have the same rights as everybody else ultimately. What's happening is that HR 5, for example, specifically eliminates the definition of women and actually of men as well. It's harming women. It's harming women's sports. It's putting women at danger in women's prisons and women's shelters. It's really, 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 identity politics on steroids. So that's the reason why she loses on that point. When you go here, you'll see that there's plenty of data that you just read out right in her score here and the explanation. The vast majority of people do not want, 3/4 of Americans oppose white privilege training, for example, and large majorities of people don't want anything to do with this far left agenda. Okay, so she loses the point on that for that reason. Thank you very much, Suzanne. Okay, great. So we're making some progress. So now we're getting down to number 5 and social opportunity, which is about healthcare. So Mark, can you tell your voters your position on this? I'm going to ask you a question on number 5. Do you support affordable and high quality market-driven healthcare for all, allowing citizens to choose from a public government-run health system or keep their private insurance health plan, which includes opposing Medicare for all, which would abolish private healthcare?
I do oppose Medicare for all. I think each individual ought to have the freedom to choose the healthcare plan that's right for them and their family. I support patient-centered healthcare where patients and their doctors are making the decisions of their own personal health. I like the idea of catastrophic health insurance that covers the big bills, and then the use and expanded use of health savings accounts, which give the patient control over their health spending dollars, and any dollars they don't spend, they get to keep. And so I would advocate for expanding health savings accounts and coupling those with catastrophic health insurance. Okay,
great. Well, thank you for that. And you're in line with the majority of American people once again on this issue. You received a full thumbs up for supporting free market healthcare and a mixed score for allowing citizens to choose from either both public or private healthcare. On average, I'll say that the Republican Party platform has generally not been supportive of any kind of system allowing to make people to make that choice. That's why, on average, many Republicans lose a part of that score, whereas Democrats win a part of that score for that reason. So I'll go over that when we go over Titus's score. But again, you got a strong score on that. So thank you for your response. And of course, what matters is what the voters think of that response. And it's very populist. So thank you. Okay, so now we're moving to the next question. I'm sorry, I have to add in Titus. So Titus, what's Titus's answer to this?
Well, John, Congresswoman Titus fully supports Medicare for all. In fact, she co-sponsored the Medicare for All Act. She voted to expand the Affordable Care Act, which would increase federal health care control and funding. She voted against Right to Try and against funding to fight the opioid epidemic. She has also voted against health savings accounts. I think it's interesting Mark mentioned that, because she has voted directly against health savings accounts and against small businesses joining groups in order to find cheaper insurance rates across state lines.
Okay, thank you for that. And again, these are things that I don't think Congresswoman Titus would would say to the public. But we did the research, and we have the goods on her on this. And
Her record speaks for itself.
the record's being, you know what? The record is better and louder and more accurate than the words from a politician's mouth. Sorry, in this situation, right? So we have the record on her background. So she wins part of the score because there is, again, when I alluded to earlier, the Democrats, and everybody would probably agree with this. You ask somebody up the street, have been pretty good about trying to encourage more government involvement in healthcare and more options for people. But on the big negative side, she loses when it comes to Medicare for all, which would eliminate private healthcare insurance. Again, the numbers are about 10% of people in America support that. 90% don't want to do that. So again, she's on extreme fringe on that.
And she is a huge proponent of Medicare for all.
Yes. So that's where you see a mixed score right here on that. Okay. So thank you for that. And let's move to our next question, number 6 for Mark. So Mark, we're doing great. We're halfway done. Do you support school choice, school vouchers, and more parental involvement in schools? That's part one of the question. Part two of the question is, do you oppose teaching critical race theory and radical transgender education to our children in public schools?
All right. I'm a strong advocate for parents' choice. I think that parents have an inalienable right to have a voice and a choice in their child's education. I do not think that education decisions should be made by bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. I think those decisions should be made as close to the child as possible, preferably by that child's parents. And I think parents ought to be able to choose which education option is best for their child, whether that's public or private or charter or magnet or homeschooling or any other number of options, and that the money should follow the child. I think it is immoral that in Nevada, only wealthy families can afford to send their children to better schools, that low-income and middle-class families are trapped in our failing schools. Nevada ranks near the bottom in math, science, and reading, and I am all for giving parents a choice. As to CRT, if you gave a parent a choice, they could send their child to this school and there they'll learn math, science, and reading, or you can send your child to this school and there they'll learn to judge people by the color of their skins. This school is going to win. Parents will always pick what's better for their child to learn the academics. This school will either evolve or die. Competition will raise the performance of all schools.
Great. Thank you for your answer on that. And just to reflect on your score, you are in line with the vast majority of people. There's plenty of research showing that the people are for school choice. They're not the teachers unions are by definition against school choice. They want to force your kid to go to the school, the public school that they determine. And that's not a populist position. Once again, it's this position of forcing, they're well in the same with critical race theory and radical transgender ideas are not supported by the vast majority of American people. So thank you for that. And that's why you won both points on that. So thank you, Mark. And let's hear what absent Titus has to say about that. Let me just get this. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. I apologize. Okay, Suzanne.
Well, John, Congresswoman Titus is a strong supporter of teachers unions, and she has a grade of A from the National Education Association on their legislative scorecard for 2022, which means she has voted in line with the teachers unions nearly 100% of the time. And as we recall, she voted for CRT funding via the American Rescue Act and to allow biological boys to compete in girls' athletics.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So again, as I was alluded to earlier, I kind of jumped ahead from Mark's answer. She is on a fringe. She's in a very fringe position on this. The teachers unions do not support school choice, and she's in with them with the Joe Biden agenda 100%. She votes 100% with Joe Biden and pushing these radical, divisive theories like we talked about earlier in the social discussion when we talked about identity politics. It's bad for kids. The worst thing you do is tell them that you can judge them by the color of their skin. I agree with that. And guess what? so do the vast majority of Americans. That's why she loses on that big time.
Well,
And-
unlike the Biden administration, she is for a lot of federal control over the education system in our
Yeah.
country.
And when federal control, wherever you see federal control, you see things go down and get much worse. You bring it to local, and that's what people want, and that works better. Okay, thank you very much, Suzanne. And now, Mark, we are now moving into the last phase, which is national opportunity on the list of questions. There's 4 important questions when it comes to different topics and with respect to national opportunity. So the first one is question number 7. Do you support our local police, safe communities, and law and order, and oppose the defund the police movement?
I do support our local police, and they support me. I've been endorsed by nearly 100 law enforcement organizations, 5 former chiefs of police, and nearly 10,000 law enforcement officers. They've got my back, and I've got theirs.
Well, that is thank you for that. And if you see little badge in mine, as I was endorsed by the PBA in Massachusetts when I ran. So thank you for supporting the police. I will say thank you because when it comes to this issue and security and police and the exploding crime rates, again, you are really in the side of the American people. It's a large majority of people want more security, more police. Obviously, police doing their jobs and not breaking their own laws. That has to be opposed. But you are on the side of the vast majority of American people that see crime and murder rates and everything going way up. And it's thank you, the far left and the Biden agenda and Congresswoman Titus for that. So let's move to Suzanne's answer, speaking for Titus on this.
Well, you can thank Congresswoman Titus for many of this because she has voted many times to protect criminals' rights while making it harder for law enforcement to prosecute those criminals. She has voted to defund the DEA and has openly supported the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, which would eliminate qualified immunity for our police officers while conducting their job.
Wow. So I hate to say not surprised, but that's the agenda. That's the agenda of the far left that's now effectively running that party. And you'll see that she's lost. She loses a score on both police, for opposing the police and wanting to eliminate qualified immunity for police, and also for keeping our communities safe. And so thank you for that. And voters, when you're looking at this, you have to make it a big decision's coming up. Are you going to support somebody that wants to, that pushes for defunding the police and eliminating bail and really directly exploding the crime rates? You're at risk when that happens as a citizen. So it's a very important consideration. So,
well, the Congresswoman's record shows a great deal of votes in support of criminals' rights. So if you're a criminal, you might want to consider a vote for her because she does support your rights as a criminal, but she does not support police and law enforcement.
True. That's a good point. So I guess if you're a criminal and you want to rob banks and steal and do other horrible things to people, then maybe she's your candidate.
Her record supports you.
Her record supports you. Yes. So the criminals, I imagine they might be bigger fans. So Mark, thank you. And now we're on to question number 8. Under national opportunity, do you support border security, lawful immigration, and stemming border crime and drugs?
I do support legal immigration. I am pro-immigration. I would not be sitting here if my great-grandparents had not immigrated from the United States. But I think we, the American people, ought to decide who comes into our country. It shouldn't just be people who can break our laws and come into our country. We ought to determine who that is. So I support securing our border, giving border patrol agents the resources they need to secure our border. I support reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy and doing all that we can to stem the illegal flow of guns, gangs, and drugs into our neighborhoods. In my district, the deaths related to fentanyl poisoning are up double digit. In fact, in our Hispanic community, they have doubled the number of deaths. We have got to secure our borders to keep our neighborhoods safe.
And let me ask you a question on that, a follow-up question. What do you think, what's the reasoning behind this? I mean, it doesn't make sense to most people that the border should be open with 100,000 people dying of opioid deaths or 100,000 people dying of drug overdose. So I believe the number is 70, 75% of that is opioid deaths. all could be stemmed and reduced dramatically if our government took control and try to decide to really secure the borders. Why do you think that the Biden administration and the most Democrats want to leave our borders wide open and put us all at risk?
Yeah, I'll allow them to answer that question. I can't imagine why they would do this. It is not good for the United States. We are $31.1 trillion in debt. We cannot afford to continue to bring people into our country who can't support themselves. We can no longer divert money from American veterans and give it to the people who are breaking our laws and entering our country illegally. We have got to secure that border for no other reason as to protect the future of our country, our children and grandchildren who will be burdened with this $31.1 trillion of debt. We've got to secure our borders. It makes no sense, the current policy, not at all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I agree with you on that, and so do the people. And my feeling is it's for political power. There's a power and wealth and control is what people that are diabolically that want to be in control of things are after. And so I think most Americans kind of understand that this is for political power and nothing else. Going to your score, I wanted to show this briefly because, not only do you win on this issue and you have the support of the American people, okay, but the vast majority of people want to secure the borders. They know it's a crisis. And it's also a constitutional issue because the Constitution, one of the number one things that our government does is protect us and protect our borders as a country. That's like the most elemental part of a nation. So on the constitutional level and on the will of the people level, this is you're with the will of people and the law. So thank you for that. Thank you for your response. Okay, so let's hear what absent Deena Titus has to say about this. Suzanne speaking to her record.
Well, John, Congresswoman Titus has repeatedly claimed there is, quote, no border crisis, end quote, and has called the border wall a waste of money. She voted against a border wall 8 times and has voted in favor of giving government stimulus and benefits to illegal immigrants. She has voted for the DREAM Act in favor of DACA and has voted against Kate's Law, which addresses protections for victims of illegal crime. She also voted against deporting gang members who are here illegally and has voted repeatedly in support of sanctuary cities.
Wow. Okay. All right. So that's her record. And again, this is just an example of where she's at with in line with the most radical. I mean, she gets, she's with the AOCs of the world and Joe Biden on this extremist position where she's 100% more in favor of illegal immigrants, even if it puts your life at risk, right?
Correct.
And for that, I'd say that if we look at the score, she loses on that too, and she's working against American people and putting, just like with being against the police and for criminals, she's against the borders and for illegal aliens that are provably bringing, not all of them, not all of them, but many of them are coming in, bringing drugs and crime, and there's human trafficking. It's a well-known fact. There's plenty of data supporting that. So once again, if you want a safe community, and you have to be for strong borders. It's just the way it is. And again, that's why we gave her the negative score, because she's against the Constitution and against the will of the people on both those things in that point. And
she has supported leaving criminal illegals in the United States repeatedly through her votes.
Yes, she has. Yep. So thank you for the response. Speaking for Dina on that. Mark, okay. So thank you. We have 2 more questions. Number 9. Do you support, adhere to, and publicly promote transparent, secure, free, and fair elections and voter ID laws?
I do. I think it should be easy to vote and difficult to cheat. The Constitution says the administration of elections should be decided at the state level, and I support that. I do not think the federal government should be meddling in local elections. But in Nevada, we have 3 of the worst election security laws. First, it's universal mail-in ballot. A live ballot is sent to every voter, whether they've requested it or not. 2, we allowed third-party ballot harvesting. A third party can help somebody fill out their ballot and then go and turn it in for them. That leads many opportunities for fraud. But maybe the worst is in Nevada, it is against the law to ask for voter ID. My understanding is that 85% of Americans support the idea of voter ID. But our Democrat governor and legislature have ignored the will of the people, and they say in Nevada it's against the law to ask for voter ID. That makes no sense at all.
And you know what? It burns me up too, because you know what? When you got the COVID shot, you had to have an ID for that, right? You have to have an ID to go on a plane. You have to have an ID to go into an office building. You have to have an ID to do all these things. And I'm up here in Massachusetts, and right down the street, is not far from here, is Harvard University, the most liberal university in the country, clearly. And they did a study, a multi-year study with and a very in-depth study proving that there's nothing racial, there's no racism by asking for an ID. What's racist is saying because you're black or you're dark skinned or something, you can't figure out how to get an ID, but you need an ID to buy damn cigarettes. It's obviously fraudulent on its face. And again, when someone votes illegally, they take away your vote. They remove a vote from a legal citizen every time someone that doesn't belong to vote votes, right? So
that's correct.
So, okay, well, you are with 85%. The number is anywhere from, I've seen between 80, 85, even 87% of people want voter ID. They want secure elections, fair. Everybody has to have access to vote. But voter ID is a big one. And you're on the side of 80% of the voters, 85% of the voters. And Titus is against them. So thank you for your answer on that. Where are we with the Congresswoman's position on this? I can guess, but we want to hear the facts.
We always want to hear the facts. Nothing speaks better than the facts. Well, John, she voted in support of H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which federally opposes all state voter ID laws and would actually remove the state's ability to have voter ID laws. She stands strongly with the Democrats in opposing any investigation into the 2020 election integrity issues. She voted against a bill that would discipline postal workers who interfere with federal elections or mail-in ballots. She has also voted to eliminate the Electoral College and has voted in support of illegal immigrants being given the right to vote.
Wow. Okay. So that is a long list. And again, on the constitutionality, absolutely. Only citizens can vote. Anybody trying to get illegals to vote is not only hurting you, the public, and taking away your vote from citizens, but you're also violating the Constitution. Eliminating the Electoral College is in the Constitution. Again, strike two, going against your constitutional liberties and the Constitution. And then the will of the people. People want access to be able to vote. We all agree there should be no discrimination in voting, but voter ID does not discriminate. It does not do that. It's just a ploy. And you got to say, you want to make it easy to vote, but hard to cheat. And man, they want to make it easy to cheat. And that's just the only answer.
She directly voted against measures that would make even the mail-in voting system more secure. So she has voted against election security measures.
Great. Not great, but that's just another example of working on the very, very radical fringe and not the 80% plus of Americans. So thank you very much. Mark, we're at question number 10.
All right.
National Opportunity Scale. This is the last one. Do you support sensible science-based renewable energy solutions while maintaining a mix of fossil fuels to regain American energy independence, which will directly impact and help lower gas prices, heating, and fuel prices in America?
Yes, I support an all of the above approach. I am not against solar and wind and other renewable energy sources. I just think that the government shouldn't be the one picking winners and losers. I think a free, open marketplace ought to decide the proper mix of energy sources. So I would support reopening our oil and gas industries. I support America regaining its energy independence. It is a matter of national security. It's also a matter of family security, family financial security. When President Biden on day one closed down America's gas and oil industries, it was the beginning of the inflation bubble that we're seeing now, and it is crushing families within my district. We have got to return to energy independence. It's a matter of national security and families' financial security.
Yes, and I can't help but agree with you on that. And it is unbelievable that our government right now, under the Biden administration and Democrats like Congresswoman Titus, are making moves directly to stop energy production, close down pipelines, reduce oil and gas. And you don't have to be an MIT rocket scientist to understand that it's going to take 100+ years before we can wean ourselves off oil and gas. The whole world is powered by it. It's what civilization, even honestly, civilization was really advanced in so many ways. So the point is that you're for these principles of some, bringing in green renewables, but doing it smart and gradually and reducing energy costs by having more oil and gas like we used to under the Trump administration. So anything else to say on that? I'm very happy that you're there with that, because gas prices are now becoming one of the number one concerns. Here in New England, they're saying there might not be enough gas and oil to heat this winter, just like it's happening in Europe.
Yeah, Nevada has the second highest gas prices. We're still over $5 here. It's a real struggle for our families. We have got to do something about it, and do something quickly.
Okay, I agree 100%. And I'm going to pull up your score briefly right now. And this is the year you'll see that on the national opportunity score section of your score, you did great all the way across the board, really. And you got thumbs up on these issues. And again, we'll see that for American energy independence, big 70% say maintaining energy independence is more important than banning fracking, for example. So again, that number 70, 80, 90% keeps popping up as the number that what people want, but yet what they're getting from their government is the opposite, which doesn't make any sense in a functioning democracy to me. I don't know what you think, but that seems not to add up. Okay, great. So let's get the response from Congresswoman Titus, who is not here.
No, she is not here, but her record is here, John. And she has been opposed to fossil fuels and has repeatedly voted to impose heavy taxes on oil companies. She does support green energy and renewables, but to the exclusion of what she refers to as big oil. She voted for the Infrastructure Investment and Job Act, which has extensive funding for green energy subsidies. She supports the Paris Climate Accord and other international climate change agreements, and she has voted against the Keystone Pipeline and other U.S. energy production.
Well, that's a long list. And again, I can't believe that, the reality is fighting for green energy and alternative energy makes sense. Americans agree with that. You'll see that's why this is not a bias score. This is whatever the people want and what they don't want. The majority of people do want to support sensible, free market, and science-based environmental and renewable energy solutions. And if you're not for that at all, and there's many people on the right that are not talking at all about green energy at all, they lose on this part of the point of the score. But here, American energy independence, she loses bad, and for the same reasons that she's against the 70, 80% of people in America that want that. And this is data from a few months ago.
Jen, she has been voting against American energy independence and voting for exclusively green policies and against what she calls big oil for many years. I believe she's a 6-term congresswoman, and she's been voting for most of that time in this manner.
So you can thank Congresswoman Titus for the gas. I mean, in part, along with the Biden administration, for these horrendous energy prices. And so with that, we're going to go and see, let's see what her score is. We didn't really talk about the total score, but what we do at GOUSA is we add all these scores up with 4 against the people and 4 against the Constitution, thumbs up, thumbs down. And once in a while there's a mix because it's a middle, and she gets -2 out of 5, which is a poor anti-opportunity score on the tyranny side of the scale, because what is somebody doing on the vast majority of the issues working against 80% plus of the people?
Correct.
That's the definition of tyranny.
Correct.
I mean, what else is? And it's not democratic to say, I'm your representative, but I'm going to fight you, the people, on almost everything.
That's correct. And that is what her record shows. She is voted repeatedly in opposition to the vast majority of Americans.
That's right. So that's why she gets the -2 score. Not just, she's not here to defend it or discuss it, and she would have been better off if she could defend it. but you don't show, you don't have any right to say anything. So we got your record. You got a -2 out of 5. If you're voting in Nevada, in the first district, you have to think about that. You have to think about what we just went over, and if you really want to have somebody that's going to be working against you the whole time, while she's looking for her 7th term. And now let's move to Mark. Thank you, Mark, for joining us. And I need to give you your final score, show you where you earned, and you have a 4.4, positive 4.4 out of 5. And when you look down at your ratings and the scales here, you are at the top of the scale on really every single issue, with very few exceptions. You have one of the highest scores in the OppScore program. No one's ever gotten a 5, for example. And hats off to you. And again, this is not about red versus blue. This is about you're fighting for the people, provably for the Constitution, their rights, their liberties, and with the will of the people on the vast majority of issues. So congratulations on earning such a great score. And I'd like to, get your thoughts on this process. I hope you enjoyed the debate against the record, which maybe you find a little more refreshing because you're not going to get the deflection. You're going to get the real deal.
Hey, John Paul, I appreciate this opportunity. You allowed me to talk about issues that are important to the people of Nevada's 1st Congressional District. I've spent the last 22 months talking to the people, and these are the issues that are top of mind, especially economic issues, crime, school choice, the open border, and all of these issues are the things we talked about today. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Great. Thank you very much for your time today. And not only what you said, the things people are concerned about, if you look at Rasmussen reports and some other polling ratings out there, the top 10 issues, we covered them all tonight. All the top 10 issues Americans care about, we covered every one of them. So it wasn't these distraction issues. It's the real issues people are voting and thinking about. So thank you. We wish you luck because we support those with high scores. So we're in your camp. We hope that you win. And we thank you for your time and good luck in these last 2 weeks of the race.
Thank you, John Paul. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so to wrap up, we wanted to thank everybody for joining us here for the opportunity, the OppScore debate with or without the candidates for the race for the 1st Congressional District in Nevada. We thank Republican nominee Mark Robertson for joining us and the Robertson for Congress campaign, Suzanne Monk. Great job, Suzanne, as well. And special thanks to our core of hardworking pro-America volunteers and our generous donors at GOUSA, where we unabashedly stand for American values and the voice of the forgotten 80% of America. We are producing more debates like this one for candidates all over the country over the next couple weeks, so please be sure to check them out and support politicians who support your values and interests as detailed in their ratings. Find us at go-usa.us to learn more. Donate and search over 500 candidates that we've scored already. And be sure to vote and vote smart this election. And remember, it's not left or right or red versus blue. It's them versus you. Have a good night, everybody.